If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns, and the name of my show is Ray Johns, American Patriot. I'm so glad you're here with me today, and we're going to have Gary. We're going to bring him on really quick. I have, ladies and gentlemen, my book. It came. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to dedicate a show to it. It's not going to be today because Gary's got so much really good stuff that he sent me, and we're going to do that. But we're going to dedicate a show exactly to this book. I will tell you about one thing about the book. There is a very addition to Social Security. If people will wait until they're 70, they can get an additional almost $600 to Social Security, and that's a fact. I've checked that out. But there's so many good things in this book, and before you buy it, like I said, I'm going to be your guinea pig. I did get it, so we'll pick out a date, and we will talk about that. Also, I've been getting a lot of calls about doing the show live at the Elbow Room, and so many people want to do it. We're going to dedicate it to women. It's going to be called A Celebration of Women. And it looks like we're going to have people, hopefully, from the Republican Women's group locally, Central California Republican Women, I think it's called. I'm going to their luncheon, and they're going to come to the show. It's going to be a great show. We're going to have a lot of fun and do a heck of a lot of things, really good things. Gary has sent me some great stuff, and we're going to talk about that today and probably end up next week dedicating a show to the great stuff that he sends to me all the time. And so we can please look forward to that. I am just thrilled about a lot of things. Let me tell you, I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the instructors out there, Kelly, at the gym, that just keeps me going, and I keep trimming down, and it's just wonderful. I feel better than I felt in 20 years, and I'm starting to look better, and that makes me feel good. You know? Anyway, it's fun to be out there, and it's fun to be out there working out. I'm going to bring Gary on. Gary, how you doing, buddy? Good to have him here. And he is I'm just going to let Gary talk about some of the stuff that he has sent me. And it was so good. It was hard for me. He asked me, he said, just pick out a couple of things. And we're talking on the phone this morning. I said, Gary, I can't. They're all good. Which one do I pick? So we're going to talk about a couple of things. I have had people come up to me and make statements that are just unbelievable, and it's usually they're a minority, and what I mean is they're a minority, because if I get 20 comments, 19 of them are positive, so that one small percentage is really nothing. And I love Gary's statement, which says, what is it that Trump's doing for America that you don't want for yourself? And I use that all the time, and it leaves them speechless. Doesn't it, Gary? You know?
Yeah, because then you have to ask, what is it? And they can't answer.
No, they can't. They one
of the distinctions I think that we have to be reminded of is that for so long we have the Democrat Party and we have the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Democrat politicians elected by us, and we have the Republican politicians elected by us. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's at the leadership level, which gets down to Congress and Senate. Mm-hmm. Republican, Democrat, right? Of course, us out here, if you're a Democrat, you're going to vote for the Democrat, and if you're a Republican, you're going to vote for the Republican, and you're going to think there's a difference. Well, Ray, at that level, there is no difference.
You pointed that out before, and it makes sense.
Well, and people lose sight of that. Mm-hmm. So in terms of doing something for the people, if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican and your representative that you think is great, okay, that person is not representing you. He's representing those interests that pays him. Those people are back there for themselves.
Sure they are.
They're not there for you. And anytime you think that for a moment, you're being extremely gullible and naive.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then who is doing something for us? It's Donald Trump. It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter whether he's Republican. It doesn't matter if he's Democrat. That has nothing to do with it.
I told you about a couple of weeks ago, and Gary's brought this up, of how many people are out there. And this is what, like we said, we made the prediction 3 months before Donald Trump was elected that he was going to be president. Gary made that prediction, and I had people going back looking at the show saying, my goodness, you guys were saying he was going to be elected 3 months before. And there's so many people that stepped up, that you never hear from him. Like the big guy that walked out of the gym. This guy looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not kidding you. And he was whispering. I'm thinking, why is this guy whispering? He goes, can I talk to you? And I said, well, sure you can. The guy looked like he could walk through walls. And he said, man, it takes a lot of guts to wear that shirt. And I looked at this guy. He looked like a tractor. He looked like a bulldozer. And he said, I can't wear that shirt because of my family and friends. And I thought, and there's a lot of people like him.
Well,
a lot of them.
Pretty universal.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that we're fortunate here in Fresno, and there's proof of that, and in our district, we do have a representative that is looking out for us, and that's Devin Nunes.
I knew that's what you were going to say. What a great man.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Nunes
every
a lot.
district in the United States should have somebody that looks after his constituency,
And he
as
does.
he does.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
I
that's
like
what
him a lot.
And one of the things is, look how hard he's working to get this part of the deep state government, which affects each and every one of us, and get that cleaned up. Because if he doesn't, we have no country.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I say he doesn't, if they don't get it, I mean, we got to have a law that is equal for everyone.
Exactly.
And we have to have a law that is constitutional law.
I had a guy come up to me today at the gym. Very conservative man. He's a doctor. And he and I talk all the time. Usually it seems like we end up on a machine next to each other. And he'll come over and stand and talk to me forever. Just a nice man. He's a physician out at St. Agnes. And we were talking today. And he said, I can see the trend of the country.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, everybody can see it. I mean,
Right.
how could you not see that?
Right,
How can you
right.
not see all the good things that are happening? He's only been in, 18 months?
Yeah.
Not even 2 years. And he's done more for this country, and I dare say this, more for African Americans, and I'll say it again, more for African Americans than Obama did in 8 years. I mean, a fact is a fact. My mother said what's right is right. It happens to be a fact. It happens to be right.
Well, I think that that doesn't make sense that it would be like that you mentioned. That's what makes it hard for people to understand. But you have to go to what you just said. The fact's the fact.
It is.
And it has nothing to do just because Obama was black or something like that.
No.
I mean, it didn't matter what he was awful.
Yeah.
It didn't make any difference. And then if you look at Trump, I don't care, how he does this or that, says this or that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the point is, look what is getting done. And what is getting done is actually has a direct effect not only on me personally, but everybody associated with me, which makes it
Exactly.
personal again.
As bad as he was, and he was terrible, I think Hillary Clinton probably would have been worse.
Who's that, Obama?
Yeah. I think Hillary Clinton would have been worse.
I think she would have been worse because she's evil. I don't think, I don't know, maybe so. I don't think Obama's quite as evil.
I don't either. I mean, there's just...
That gal's evil, man. She's mean and evil, and I don't think Obama quite fits. Let's put it that way. If they had a dogfight, my bet goes on Hillary winning.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. There was an article about a Secret Service man who was assigned he was one of the assistants to her, and he said, "You would not believe." I think he's come out with a book, or he's coming out with a book. He's a conservative, and he said, "You would not believe some of the things." I mean, she treated people like crap all the time.
And I'll tell you, there's nobody on earth with a bigger potty mouth than she.
Oh
has.
yeah, he said that. He said, "You wouldn't believe some of the things that."
No,
that
she's
she
not
said."
she's just not any good. She's terrible.
And then she wants to criticize Trump for some of the things that he said during the campaign. I mean, this guy said she was, like you said, she had a potty mouth.
And she's just an evil person. How the hell people like that get what they get is beyond me. It tells me, though, that the public is not maybe quite as smart as I hoped they would be.
Isn't that a shame, Gary? But it's true.
Especially if you happen to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, how in the world do you put somebody like Maxine Waters in there?
Oh, that's another one.
Nancy
That's
Pelosi.
another. Yeah.
There's some. You got to ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Unless there is something.
I wish I could tell that Pelosi joke. That is one of the funniest jokes. If you get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, I think you could probably Google Pelosi joke. It is one of the funniest. I can't say it on radio. It is one of the funniest. Did you?
Yeah, I seen that.
Was that funny or what?
Jeez.
That was hilarious. I mean, you've got to look that up. It is hilarious.
Well, Ray, the thing is that public is waking up, and evidence of that is things such as walk away, becomes into existence out of nowhere, know. And there's more and more people becoming enlightened in that regard, which means they're becoming aware and they're acting on it, and rather than sit there doing nothing about it. So I feel like I could just feel it in the. Maybe it's my imagination. That's the way I feel. But I just feel that people are. You go into stores and you go into this and that. And people are friendly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'll be standing there like in a Costco line with one item, somebody with a cart. In the past, that cart would just stay there. No, you get ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, it's the whole mood of the country.
The whole mood of the country has changed.
And I see people. I'm walking. I wear a Trump shirt, as you well know, every single day. Gary always laughs. I have 19 of them. I'm never without one. I'm buying 2 more probably this weekend. They're all different colors. I want some more bright colors. But I don't wear bright colors when I'm out. But with Trump shirts, I want it out there. So I wear bright Trump shirts. But I see people smiling at me before they get to me.
Yeah.
They're smiling, And I'll bet you today in Fig Garden, I must have gotten 15 people saying, "I love your shirt. I love your shirt." And I always say, I always make them laugh. I always say, well, I'm kind of fond of it myself.
Well, it's getting down to where it's almost hard for anybody not to have a positive effect affecting them that was a result of what Trump has done. Because this latest one, I think, is probably every bit as big as the tax cut. Mm-hmm. And that is this vocational thing.
Oh, gosh.
That
Let's talk about
huge.
that, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah, they've had, we had like in the past 40 different tries at this, but there's nothing really came of it. And when I say of this, I'm talking about vocational training.
Yeah.
And it just never went anywhere.
You were talking about this 6 months ago.
Right, we talked about that, and I'll be darned, look what happened. And in the way we talked about it, we talked about the prisons.
This little radio station is first in a lot of things. I love it. I love it. You heard it here first.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I think we're ahead of that diamond and silver.
I loved it. I loved it when we made our prediction that Donald Trump was going to win, and we boldly said, watch it happen. It's going to happen. I just love it. I love it.
But what's happening right now with this vocational thing, that's good, is it's much bigger, much more organized, and I give a lot of credit to, and of course she's got a lot of help with it. Mm-hmm. But the spearhead of that thing, and I listened to her speak, and it was awesome. And that's Ivanka Trump.
Yeah.
And that's a pet deal that she took on, and I'll tell you
she's
what.
She's a dynamite lady, isn't she?
Oh, man, she's done a job with this thing.
Yeah.
And so think about this, Ray. We've had committed so far by 15 major companies in this country. They have committed to offer apprentice journeyman type work to 3.8 million in the next 5 years.
Oh my goodness!
Now that's just 15 companies.
Yeah,
and Trump,
that's just the embryo of this
and
thing
Trump
too.
is talking about in the next 5 years, 5 million people that can enter that program. Into something.
You know what that's going to do for the economy?
Oh, it's
just.
I mean,
just look at it from that point,
right.
And that's just one point.
Well, think about this, and you don't have people going to college and, quite frankly, wasting 4 years at a time when they shouldn't be wasting a minute.
Yeah.
At that age.
Yeah.
And they go to college and sit there and come out of there. I bet you 90% of them, I know for sure, I'm not going to say I know for sure, but I bet you 80% will come out of there and they could have done just as well had they never gone there.
Absolutely.
That's just the biggest scam and sham that we've had in the last 40, 50 years. I mean, if you think about it, look at World War II. How many people in World War II went to college?
Hardly any back then, Gary.
Yeah, but they won the war.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the Vietnam War. How many of those people that were in that war went to college? A lot of them. Mm-hmm. We lost that war.
Oh yeah, yeah. Perfect example.
How
Great
about
example.
Iraq?
I know because I had a two. I made sure that my grades were up.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a 2S deferment. You know, and I sometimes, and I wish now, I honestly do. I see these young soldiers, and I feel like I cheated my country in a way. I wish I'd gone. You know, but my mother was just so worried about me. She made sure that my grades were up. You know,
Right.
like, are you studying? Are you studying? Make sure that you don't fall below a 3.0.
Well, that war is to be blamed on the politics of the politicians of the time, because that's what ran that, and that was an awful thing.
Yeah.
And we find now that so much of that, the war machine has to do with I call it the uniparty or the elite establishment.
Yeah.
Man, they prosper with war.
Yes, they do.
And that I think it's important though that when I mention stuff like that, I'm not throwing rocks at Democrats or Republicans at that leadership level, because they're not for us anyway.
Yeah.
Any of us.
Yeah, that's true.
And if Trump was, I don't favor the Republican Party the way it is at the leadership level. I favor it for some of the principles and the culture and the morals that they have, as opposed to the Communist Party, which is the Democrats. I mean, they might as well just come right out and call it the Communist Party and the Republican Party.
They hide it under the guise of socialism. Oh, come on, please.
I mean, it's just so obvious, and then the people. Well, I say it's so obvious. It's obvious to you and I. It's not obvious to the people that are in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think of it as the party of the loonies.
I love it.
You know?
I love it. Yeah.
And well-meaning, but what seems to always be an underlying factor with that? Hate, anger, and misery. How in the world?
It's out there every day. All you got to do is turn
Yeah.
on CNN.
Hate,
It's there.
anger, and misery.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of an enjoyment or joy in life do you get out of being one of those people?
Unbelievable. Gary, we're going to take a break, but before we do, ladies and gentlemen, let me post let's talk about our American Patriot for this week. This is a pretty interesting young man. His name was Benjamin Solomon, and he entered he was a dentist from Milwaukee, by the way, and he entered the service in 1940, just a year or so prior to the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which was in 1941, of course. And he was ridiculed by a lot of people because he was a dentist and called a wuss and called a whole bunch of things. This guy was a great hero. He was sent to Saipan, and the surgeons, a couple of the surgeons were wounded. One of them ended up being fatally wounded, and he kind of took over their duties, even though he was a dentist, and he patched people up. And he had a setup. He actually had his med thing set up about 100 yards behind the front lines. Well, they were overrun by the Japanese, okay? And all the people with him were killed. And when they found him, when they came back, he also was killed, this young man. And there were 60 to 70 Japanese soldiers laying around, and there were 3 empty machine guns. So this man was he's the kind of thing that you read about in that movies are make. So our American Patriot this week is Benjamin Solomon. Look him up. What a great man, and what a great hero.
Awesome.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back very quickly here, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with us. We got some great stuff to talk to you about. We're going to talk about the Elbow Room, which I'm excited about, doing our celebration of women. We're going to talk about that, and mainly we're going to stick with Gary, who's got some really good stuff for us. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Okay, I'm back. I want to talk a little bit before we get back to Gary about some of the things we're going to do. We're shooting for probably mid-August for our live show at the Elbow Room, and this is going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. I because I lost my mother about over 10 years ago, and I just recently lost my sister, and I want it to be a celebration for women. And we've got some wonderful people coming. The Republican women hopefully are going to be there. I'm going to go to their luncheon here real quick, and they're excited when I talk to them about coming on the show. But we're going to do a couple of things. There's a bestseller book out called The 18 Rules of Happiness, and I have it. It is phenomenal. I'm going to read from that, and I'm also going to give away some of those books, probably 10 of them. We're going to give away the new book that's on the bestsellers list, Feminine. And I understand there's an online class that you might look up that I understand. I've talked to 5 or 6 women that are taking this class, and it is just a great, great class for all women. I think all women should buy this book, and I think even more so all men should buy this book, because it talks about how women should be treated in this world, because they're not treated well in a lot of cases, and they're still trying to come into their own. And this has been since 1920, since the suffrage. It's about time that we ended this stuff. We're also going to give away, hopefully, gift certificates for the Elbow Room. Mike's going to do some advertising from here, the owner of the station here, and to help me out. What a wonderful man he is. I just love Mike. And Mike Serenian, who I've known for 30 years, and I tell people all the time, go to the Elbow Room, do yourself a favor, introduce yourself to Mike Serenian. He is a great, great man. And I thank him for allowing me to do this. And I mean, he jumped right on it and said, oh, I'd be delighted. I mean, there was no hesitation on his part. The kind of guy Mike is. That's why he's so darn successful. But we're going to give away some wonderful, wonderful things. And it's going to be fun. You guys can sit out there and scream and yell at us all you want, and we'll have fun. You know, have a drink and just get crazy. It's going to be a fun afternoon. Okay, Gary, we're going to talk about, you and I were talking about on the break here.
Yeah, I think this vocation thing is huge, and I don't. It's not going to get the publicity it deserves simply because it's coming.
When you made the statement, you think it's as big as the tax thing. That tells me something right there.
And here's the thing: you're going to have millions of people who are going to take advantage of this,
of course,
and as well they should.
Yeah.
But here's a big shift that this can be. Is the kind of jobs that these people can learn skills for, it's going to be paying every bit as much as if you had a college education. In fact, it may be more.
That's outstanding.
Okay, so that disparity between, well, go to college because I'm going to end up richer than you, that's over with. A lot of kids coming out of that college right now have no job. They have a debt. They have no skill at all of anything.
I just thought of this, Gary. How many kids coming out of high school can't afford to go to college? You know, they can't afford to do this.
Well, they can't afford for 2 reasons. They can't afford to waste the 4 years that it's going to be a waste if they did, because they're not college. College is not their gig.
No.
And because college is actually it's like preparing you to be a social worker or something like that. People aren't interested in that.
No.
Okay.
And we don't need that.
No, and we don't. So they go to, it's just an apprenticeship. So what would be better, like for instance, if you wanted to be a certain whatever it is, wouldn't you feel better learning from the guy that's sitting right there doing it?
That's the way it was in the old days.
That's the way it was in the old days.
You know, your parents would send you to Uncle Joe because he was a shoemaker.
Right.
And you would learn that trade.
Yeah, doesn't that make more sense than learning about some country?
You go live with Uncle Joe for 2 years, learn the shoe business, and pretty soon you've got your own shop. You're making shoes.
Right.
You know, and why not?
Right.
It worked. It worked in America at the beginning of this country.
Well,
it'll work right now.
Well, it'll offer hope for a lot of people that
Yes,
feel, because I just talked to a dad the other day of a kid that I know that went to college and spent 1 year there, and decided, and he's an athlete. I mean, he's on he's a player on a team there at this college, but he quit. He says college is not for me. He did not relate to college. So he wants to go to the workforce. And his dad was, of course, very disappointed. And I said, I wouldn't be disappointed at all. I said, that kid is going to be so far ahead, especially now with this kind of a programs that are available. What does he want to do?
It's we're so oriented toward, and I did it, and you did it. What do? You after high school, you go to college because it's going to better you and it's going to make you a lot of money. Well, let me tell you something. I own a mobile home business, and I do okay. I didn't need college to become.
I didn't need college to do anything I've done.
I didn't need it.
I mean, I could have used a vocation. In fact, that's really what it was. My first thing out of college, basically, was I became a jet fighter pilot. Let me tell you, it did not require a college education to do that.
Yeah.
It did require being taught how to do it.
Yeah.
And that skill was taught by who? Not some college professor, but a guy that was actually out there doing it.
I always say, people are saying they call Warren Buffett the Oracle of Omaha. I love that term. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, do not have college educations. They do not have degrees, And I always tell people in a second, I turn in this little degree for about 1/10 of what they have in a New York minute.
Yeah, and that's a bill of goods that people are sold, unfortunately, and you don't need that. It's a scam. And I tell you what, when I talked to this gal who was a master's degree graduate of Harvard in the field of finance from Harvard, and she knew Zippo about the stock market, that right there, and she told me, it was a scam. I realized it.
Gary, if they taught the right things, you and I talked about that before, Einstein said years ago, forget about reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah.
Let's teach these kids how to think.
Right.
Let's teach them how to think. Now they call it quantum physics, which is the same thing. Let's teach them how to think.
We're ranked so low. I mean, in one area alone, we're number 40 of all the nations in terms of spelling and reading. But here's the thing.
Is that amazing?
Think about that. We spend the most of all the nations.
Of course we do.
Okay, you got dingbats like that gal that was out there at Fresno State, that libtard, big fat gal that was...
that made that... gosh.
Yeah. You got that kind of...
Yeah.
You got that kind of scum teaching kids in college. What am I going to college for, to go listen to that dingbat? Doesn't make sense.
It's just like somebody asked me the other day. In fact, today I got asked that again. And, it said, do you ever watch The View? I said, no, I don't watch that show. and I don't watch CNN, I don't watch these shows. I mean, for what? For what? And they were saying that Whoopi Goldberg refers to President Trump as that man in the White House. How disrespectful can you be? If you don't like the man, fine. Do not disrespect the office.
Well, the thing is, about getting back to the college thing, it's unfortunate that so many have put a bad mood or emphasis and made it an emphasis because of wanting their own attention, like that gal out of Fresno State. But And what it does, though, because you experienced it yourself when you went through there is those professors that are absolutely, totally fantastic.
You're right.
But these others are the ones that you see, the one that you're affected by, and that puts a bad reputation or feeling about some real good people.
Sure it does.
And I don't think that's very good. I do think, though, that this program, this vocation program, one of the areas that I'm excited about is it's going to offer a tremendous opportunity for people coming out of prison.
Oh, let's talk about that,
And,
Gary. I think we touched on that once before. Let's talk about
and
that.
I'm trying
today.
to keep it simple. So many people in prison, 80% of the people in prison are nonviolent crimes.
Usually it's drugs.
Usually it's drugs, which is probably more like robbery and that kind of thing, right? But they're nonviolent people.
Yeah.
However, once they go to prison and come out of there, the cards are stacked against them. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll use an example, Ray. A guy comes out of prison, and now he gets a job, which is hard to do. But he gets a job, and he goes to work for a roofing company. And he's up on top of that roof, and at that particular day, at 2 o'clock, he has to meet with his probation officer. Well, the employer is sitting there, man, we need that guy on that
Yeah.
roof. It's going to rain tonight, and we need to get that roof
Yeah.
done. And this ex-prisoner is sitting there saying, I got to meet that probation. If I'm 1 minute late, I'm back in
He's
prison.
going back to prison. Yeah.
There's no coordination.
Yeah.
No-
That happens all the time. I've
and
heard
it
of
happens
that.
all the time. And so then the employer says, man, I says, as much as I want to hire you, I just can't. I can't have you work for me if we can't be consistent. And I've got you on a job that I need to be there,
Yeah.
and you have to go. So I got to replace you with somebody else.
Yeah.
See, there's no coordination there.
Yeah.
And so now this prison guy gets out. Obviously, he's discouraged. What's he do? Commit a crime? He's back in prison.
Happens all the time.
And I think with this program, this apprentice program, it's going to allow prisoners who get out have an opportunity to learn a skill of whatever they choose.
Isn't that great?
And they're also, those things is also, there's academics that you are automatically taught through that, reading skills and
Yeah.
in other words, it's a practical approach to education.
Yeah.
It's not a practical approach to what we have today, which is indoctrination.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Oh, yeah.
Big difference. So now what you're going to have is, I think, eventually down the road, less crime because the people that get out have now, there's no reason for a crime.
And these people are going to re-enter society as productive individuals.
Exactly.
Contributing to the economy of this country.
Well, on
I
a
mean,
small scale, some employers have already started that, and they are amazed at how good those ex-prisoners are because they want to be an example to the ones that are wanting to come out, that are going to be getting out, and then they go into.
I'm sitting here listening to you talk about this wonderful stuff, and this all comes, ladies and gentlemen, because of Donald Trump. He's covering every spectrum of everything in this country. In his own time, of course, but he's doing it,
Well, it's not. It was all. It's constructed that it wasn't going to come unless there was a Donald Trump.
Exactly.
And let's say, for
Exactly.
instance, we had a Hillary Clinton. Instead of Hillary, we had a Joe Biden. Instead of Joe Biden, we had a George. What's his name? Brother Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
Ray. It would have been the same.
Sure it would have.
It would have been no difference.
Yeah. Yeah, sure it would have.
You see, and that's why. People say, "Well, you're hard on Democrats and stuff." Well, I'm on Democrat leadership and also on on Republican leadership.
Sure.
Now, as far as people, I see Democrats, the ones that are still hanging on. I mean, come on, they're a bunch of sick loonies. How else can you be? How can you look and say, "Well, what do you mean there isn't progress?" It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
So if you can't see it, there must be something wrong with you.
Every other business owner like me, and I know a lot of them, and we talk every chance. I was talking to a guy named Frank the other day, great guy, and I was saying, can you feel the trend of this country? He says, not only can I feel, can I see it and feel it? He says, I feel it in the Hip National Bank. that's a big one right there, and they all say the same thing, myself included.
Well, people are sick, but people are getting better. That's
done
what
right
this
there.
walkaway is all about.
Yeah.
But you got to look at this way. You got something there that's green and red, and you ask this, and that's what I'm getting at. And you ask this person, okay, which one's green, which one's red? That guy said, well, that's green, that's red, and so does except this one person. And this person doesn't give you an answer. And you say, which one of those is green and red? He said, well, I don't know. You know why he doesn't know? Because he's blind. That's
What does
why.
that tell you?
What does that tell you?
Beautiful analogy, Gary. Absolutely.
So when you talk to somebody that's sitting there completely off the wall, it says, well, I don't see it, like you ran into it the other day. The only reason they can't see it is because they're blind.
Exactly. That's a beautiful analogy. I love that. It's beautiful.
But everybody else can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's green and red. Green
There
and
are
red.
some blind people out there.
Of course. Yeah. And so once you understand that, and you hope that someday these kind of people will get their sight back.
And I was telling Gary about this. It's beautiful, absolutely, as they say, drop dead gorgeous blonde, 30 years old, came up to me and looked at my shirt and said, how could you be black and be a Republican? And I said, you know what? That is the most racist thing that anyone, and it is. That is by far the most racist thing that anyone has ever told me. And I said, well, oh my goodness, are you telling me that that I can't execute my First Amendment rights? That's basically what you're telling me, you know? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But you know what? Here's the thing, too. That's all they got left. Mm-hmm. They're picking on these little things on Trump constantly. He
Every
did
day.
this, he did that, he did this. Think about this, Ray. And this is important because it is exactly the same thing. What they're hoping to do is they've given up on trying to convince a Trump supporter to not be one.
Oh, yeah, they can't.
But what they're trying to do is rally their own, their own useful idiots.
Oh, yeah.
And keep them there, right?
And that's doomed, too, believe me.
Okay,
It's a doom.
and because there's more and more people coming out with this walk away.
Yeah.
All right, now think about this. So they think they're going to cure it by coming up with all these things, personal things that Trump did 14 years ago, 20 years ago, 10, and they think that's going to really have an effect. I'm going to tell you what people do see. They see this country was in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're sitting there and your house is on fire.
I love this. Listen to this. This is beautiful.
Your house is on fire, and you call the fire department, and 10 firemen show up to put that fire out. Do you give one rat's about what these firemen did personally in their lives or what they are? I mean, one of them might have been drunk the night before. You care less. All you care is
Saving your house.
Put the
That's
fire
it.
out. Why? Because they have,
That's perfect.
they have the capability to put the fire out.
Yeah.
That's all you care about, and that's all you know about those 10 people. You don't know anything about their personal background, but you know that they have the skill to put that fire out because they've been trained to do so.
Sure.
Trump right now has the skill to save this country. Mm-hmm. What do you care about what color necktie Trump wears or anything? You're in trouble.
Exactly.
You're in trouble, and this man can now straighten it out. So does it do me any good if I'm standing next to you at that fire and I happen to know one of the firemen? Mm-hmm. I say, Ray, do you realize what that guy is? What he does? Man, that guy, and I go on and on about what a no good son of a gun that fireman is, but he's holding that hose, and you're sitting there. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Exactly. This guy's saving my house.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful. I love that. I absolutely love
I'll
it.
talk to you about that later. So I think that that's the common sense thing. Mm-hmm. Apply a little common sense to it, and more people with common sense are doing that. Mm-hmm. And I'm impressed by those walk-away videos.
Oh, this is great, yeah.
And I'm impressed by the people that turn in a video of explaining why they walked away. Mm-hmm. And you'd be shocked at the cross-section of people that...
This thing is going to have a domino effect, isn't it, Garrett? Don't you think? I mean, more and more
Well, yeah,
people
because it gets people to think this way. Okay, Ray, we're talking about maybe a ball team or something, Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of a certain way on that team, and you seem to be the opposite in regards to that team. And all of a sudden, you tell me why you're the opposite of me in regard to that team. Well, I sit back and I start thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe I better assess this a little different.
Yeah.
So it's planting the seed.
Exactly.
So if I'm sitting there in a family of, maybe we're sitting there at Thanksgiving dinner and we're all libtards, but one of them went to walk away, I don't see how that isn't going to affect the rest of it. Well, what?
Right it is.
There's going to be some others start thinking that maybe there's a reason why I walked away. And the point is the reason why you did. And the reason, if the reason is because it's a much, much better way to go than to be a communist.
And they're waking up. You and I talked about this months ago. They're waking up. They're seeing what's happening, right. And that's a major part of the walk away.
Well, it is a major part, and people start seeing the real. We're talking about the libtard real left, and that's what's running this thing.
Yeah,
the Democrats.
Sure.
It's not the Democrats that was. Maybe your neighbor or your grandparents or something. In my case, my parents all were Democrats. But it's not
mine
those
too.
people.
Mine too. They thought first Jerry Brown walked on water.
Well, and the whole point is, we're not talking about those Democrats.
No.
We're talking about what had happened to the
not
party.
Our parents' Democrats.
Right.
I love that statement.
And they've been hijacked. The Democrats, the good Democrats, have been hijacked by a bunch of left-wing communist loonies.
Sure.
I mean,
How obvious
they
is that?
riot,
I mean-
they anger and hatred, and they tear. I mean, they destroy things. They have zero common sense.
None.
I mean, gosh,
How much sense does it take to go out and demonstrate and burn and do that? I mean, how much, you know, come on, people.
they burn
You know,
the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that there's a big. After a while, you're sitting there and you're saying, "Well, you know, I kind of sympathized with him for years and this and that," and then pretty soon you, but that's really not me. You know, that's really not what they're doing, what they believe in, everything. Really gets right down to it. It's really not me. So they walk away.
Sure.
And that's a
Common
plus.
sense.
Well, because they have an option now. In the past, you really didn't have an option. What am I going to walk away for? Because I had to consider what was I going to walk into.
Exactly.
What I was going to walk into was a heck of a lot different than what I was walking away from. You see?
Yeah, they're waking up. They're looking at it. They're looking
Exactly.
at everything that's happening in this country. I love what you said a couple of weeks ago. When's the last time you heard anything about ISIS?
That's right.
I mean, you can go on and on and on about Donald Trump. You can go on and on and on about it. I mean, I told Gary, I said I was in a stadium where there were thousands of people, you know, back before he got elected, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
would be a perfect place for those ISIS idiots to hit, you know. And you can't. I don't think that way anymore. I mean, it's the last thing on my mind. I don't even think about ISIS
Well,
anymore.
what has Trump said? He wants to have America, have a safe America, free of crime, ideally, and free of and feel secure, so they can enjoy what? So they can enjoy their life as it was meant to be, not what somebody said it was supposed to be. That's a big difference.
And
Self-determination.
And I forgot the name of the gang that was really notorious and did all those things. And they had at one of his latest, which was months ago, State of the Union address, and that young man stood up that was
Oh,
just
yeah.
oh, what a hero, huh?
Oh, my God.
What now that is an American patriot, you know.
And there's more of those people popping up all over the place, and then some of them, because I see that now, I get to see. No, they post the videos. People that you wouldn't think would be walking away, you know, or have the sense to even walk
Yeah.
away, but they do. No, people are waking up. People are happy. Especially, I think, with this vocational thing, that's going to offer a tremendous hope for anybody sitting in the ghetto right now.
Absolutely, it's gonna perfect, Gary.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
And-
gonna offer a lot of hope.
Well, and what they're finding is that these people, even though because of their background we develop a stereotype, they're very capable. You know, because we all have a talent in certain things.
We all do. Everybody does.
And I may have a talent in something that you do not have. You have a talent in something I do not. That doesn't mean anything about us being bad.
No.
But if I can effectively utilize my talent without you telling me what my talent should be, is what the liberals do.
Yes,
they
they
tell
do.
you how to live.
Yeah.
Republicans are about self-determination.
Sure.
Ray, you want to go sell mobile homes? Go sell mobile homes and be happy about it.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's what a libtard would do. He'd come up to you and say, I don't know why you're sitting out there at Sanger in this heat selling mobile homes. You realize you should be doing this?
Yeah.
And here's why, because, you know, you're a black man, and by God, you did it. And your parents or ancestors came over here. And, oh, my God. I mean, they could have you up in such an uproar. And then you forget to be what? You forget to be a human being.
It's very true. It's very true.
And you start living
Good
like
point.
living like
Yeah.
well, like they want you to live. Mm-hmm. You're right back on the plantation, and quite frankly, so is all of us.
Yeah.
If you're a Democrat and they have their choice, it ain't limited to somebody's color or religion. Everybody's on the
Absolutely.
plantation.
Absolutely, Gary.
You know, and that's something that people have to realize. Well, it's them. No, it's all
All of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
And that's what communism is all about.
Sure it is.
Communism doesn't differentiate what religion, this and that.
And as we said, it has never, ever worked. It has never worked. Ever. No.
Well, even Putin found that out
Yes, he did.
way back when.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very capitalist.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. After those uranium mines with Hillary.
yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I mean, Russia pulled. Well, what they did is they paid Hillary. I mean, the public is so stupid. How in the world? That woman was paid $145 million just on one deal alone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because she's a crooked, ruthless, evil.
I've said it 100 times on my show. I'd like to know how much money's in that Hillary Foundation? I'd love to know. Of course, they probably hid a lot of it by now because they realize that eventually she's going to jail. And I really do think that'll happen.
Well, that we talked about that a little bit. It's going slow right now to get the bad guys, and we get discouraged and so forth. But Trump knows that this is going to have to happen if the country is going to survive, because it's a country of laws.
Yeah.
And we just are not going to be able to exist as a country where there's a law for you and a law for
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to fold.
Sure.
So, what Trump is doing is the more that this prolongs, the more they expose themselves.
Sure.
More people see that than what they did 6 months ago.
Oh, absolutely.
They see who they are. They see how they talk. They see how they think, and they didn't know that before.
Mm-hmm.
So if that came out too early, we'd never know. Well, maybe we're being too hard on that. No, this way we say, oh my God. And it's coming out little by little as time goes on.
Yeah.
More each and every day.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
And
He's
there's
doing
a
it
point,
the right way.
there's going to come a point where he's going to drop the hammer, and that is going to be when the people are able to have the most attention, the most focus on it, because what's critical for Trump is to get a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, and
that's what
that
he's
is
working
in
on.
November.
Yeah.
So sometime prior to November, I expect there's going to be a lot of heads fall.
I'm sure you're right. Gary, we're going to take a little break here. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here in a couple of minutes. Bear with us.
The men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. But I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you.
Okay, I'm back with Gary, and of course, easing toward the end of the show, as we do, and I say this all the time. When Gary's on, he has so much. We have so much to talk about. And like I said, I'm going to, between now and next week, I'm going to get together with Gary, and we're going to, he and I will talk on the phone, and we're going to piece together a show. It's going to be a great show about some of the stuff he sends me all the time, because it's just great. I mean, I love reading it. It makes my show. But it's so much that it's going to take, I want to pick out the very best of the best. Like, it was almost funny when Gary said, well, just pick out a couple of things. And I said, Gary, I can't, man. It's all so good. Where do I start? So I just threw a couple of things together. One more thing, just to remind you, hopefully within the next week or so, we'll be able to make our announcement about the Elbow Room. So bear with me. It's going to be a fun time for everybody, and we're going to give away some stuff, and I'm going to read some inspirational stories about women, and I've come across some that are just phenomenal. I cannot wait to pass that on to all the audience live at the Elbow Room. It's going to be a fun time. Want to say something in closing, Gary?
Yeah,
We got some time here. We've got about
Ray.
8 minutes.
Yeah, Ray, I think that the big thing for this week was this vocation thing, because
Yeah.
that affects everybody individually. Let's think about this for a moment. Let's assume that somebody goes on that program and learns a skill. I'm not suggesting that if you want to go to college, believe me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying A or,
Yeah.
and A or B. I'm just saying that you have another opportunity for you right now that is every bit as good, if you choose and want to get started on your vocation, which a lot of people are doing.
This thing is really big. You're right. This is just
but
as
here's
big as
what to think about, because it's available.
Yeah.
But it's not known yet,
Yeah.
and that is anybody that goes through a vocation and puts in a 30-year career, because they choose it. They choose what they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a welder or electrician or what, right? Or like this one guy was a truck driver, and he flew helicopter in Vietnam, and then he now has his own truck and his own trucking deal.
I love it.
And he says, I've never been happier. And he's kind of elderly guy, right? Okay, now let's look at this. Everybody that does that, and then the young people puts in a 30-year career and uses the white apple formula, which is available, which we talked about before, okay? And that's a concept that's available. They will walk out at the end of 30 years with $1 million if they're paying an average of $10,000 of taxes a year. They
And that's the average tax for.
and that's the average tax. So that tax would be deferred, and they'd walk out of there with whatever retirement they have plus $1 million.
That's beautiful.
Now, if that
Absolutely.
is an incentive to go out and get a job and put in a 30-year of what you enjoy
Sure.
doing,
Yeah.
of what you enjoyed working at,
What a great thing to look forward to.
and you walk out of there, and you're on par with anything as far as college goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at the practicality. Why is it that the people getting out of college are having such a hard time? They're living in the basements because it's not practical,
Yeah.
Ray. I mean, I see that right now. I got relatives that are getting out of college, and what can they do?
Yeah.
There's no practicality to it.
Yeah. None whatsoever.
But what happens if that guy comes out there and says, "Hey, I know how to. I'm going into construction. This is what."
I'm a welder.
Well,
You know.
and they had some of these CEOs and stuff that started that way.
Sure.
You know, they were, a framer on a construction crew
This
or
is-
something.
you
Now
know,
they
the-
own the company.
That's an American story.
That's
right there.
American
It
way.
happens all the time. All the time.
And the way you keep that story going is to keep America great again.
yeah.
And you're not going to keep America great again following the Democrat socialist communist style of government.
No, we've been
There's
there.
no
We-
way
we-
you can do
We've
that.
been there. We've done that. It didn't work. It
And
does
so
not
has
work.
every other country
Yeah.
that has tried communism.
Yeah.
No, it never works. So here we are now with the other side availability to us, thank God, and it will work.
We've just about run out of time, and I'm going to, of course, ask Gary to come back next week because we're going to compile all this great stuff that he sends me, and we're going to do a show just on that. And we're going to
Okay,
do it
man.
next week. You're going to come? Can you make it next week?
Yeah, you have a good weekend. Remember, it's hotter than
I know it,
than
man.
hell.
I know it. It is really hot. Every week I tell you that to go up and please and shake hand with a law enforcement officer and tell them how much we appreciate them because we do. You know, there's a young officer out there that I want to give a shout out to. I hope he's watching the show. His name is Sam Torrey, and if you have come across what a wonderful, wonderful policeman. He's just a great man. And the other day I got out of my car and I was walking. I didn't realize there was a policeman there, and he goes, "Hey." And I turned around and I said, "Yeah, are you talking to me?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "You came up to me a couple of weeks ago and shook my hand." I said, "Well, I'm going to do it again." And he laughed and we did it, you know. They are here for us. They're doing
great.
the things that I don't want to do. I don't want to carry a gun and go out after these crazy people, but they do that and they protect us. And they should be honored for what they do. And so go up to one, shake his hand. So until we meet joyously again next Friday at 3 o'clock, heaven's blessings.
Her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
CentralValleyTalk.com